At my daughter Cora's wedding, her groom, Nicholas, keen on displaying his elite status, made a grand show of having me thrown out into the yard at Forrig. "You're not worthy of sitting with us, you simpleton," he sneered. The assembled guests snickered. Cora just stood there, silently, a betrayal that cut deeper than any insult. I simply smiled, a private hidden expression that held my secret. Suddenly a voice from the crowd pierced the smug silence. "He's a billionaire." Nicholas dropped his crystal glass. "This was never about revenge. This is justice." Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and share the time where you are now in the comments. I sat alone at a table in the upscale downtown restaurant, watching the door. It had been 20 minutes. The maitre d', a woman whose apologetic smile didn't quite reach her eyes, approached, menu tucked under her arm. "Would you like to order while you wait, sir?" I shook my head, gripping my phone tighter. "He'll be here." She nodded and retreated. Around me, the restaurant floor hummed with the quiet confidence of old money. Business suits leaned in over white tablecloths. Polished leather shoes crossed beneath the chairs. Laughter rolled out in practiced, effortless waves. I'd built a formidable empire from nothing over 40 years, yet none of that was on display today. My simple Target dress shirt was crisp enough, my slacks pressed, my hands scrubbed meticulously clean of the motor oil that was my usual badge of honor. Still, I knew precisely what I looked like sitting there. An anomaly, an outsider. My Ford F-150, 15 years old but running with the consistency of a Swiss watch, sat proudly in the valet lot, a clear statement of my modest facade. The door swung open. Nicholas strode in first, Cora trailing half a step behind him. There was no hint of apology in his stride, no hurry in his calculated movements. He wore his tailored suit like a suit of armor, expensive fabric draping perfectly across his broad shoulders. His high-end watch caught the light as he raised his hand, signaling the hostess. She rushed over. He spoke without looking at her. "Reservation for Whitmore." Cora spotted me and offered a weak, overly bright, nervous wave. They crossed the room. Nicholas extended his hand without making eye contact, his grip brief and immediately dismissive. "Orval, traffic was murder." Still no apology, only a convenient excuse. I stood, shaking his hand, feeling the calluses on my palm grate against his remarkably smooth one. He pulled back quickly. "Nicholas, good to finally meet you." Cora leaned in for a hug. Her perfume was expensive, unfamiliar, something she'd clearly chosen to match his world. "Hi, Dad. Thanks for coming all the way downtown." I returned her hug, feeling the tension in her frame. Wouldn't miss it. We settled into our chairs. Nicholas made a deliberate show of placing his BMW keys on the table next to his expensive phone, a gesture as casual as breathing. The waiter materialized instantly. "Gentlemen, ladies, can I start you with something to drink?" Nicholas ordered a scotch, neat, naming the brand like it was a measure of his character. Cora asked for a glass of wine. I requested a simple glass of water. Nicholas glanced at me, something flickering across his face. Amusement, perhaps pity, perhaps contempt. "Come on, Orval, have a drink. Celebrate our treat." I shook my head gently. "Water's fine." The waiter departed. Cora immediately launched into wedding planning, filling the ensuing silence with a flurry of venue options, catering details, and color schemes. Nicholas listened with barely half his attention, his eyes wandering restlessly to other tables, scanning the room to check who else occupied this rarefied space. When she paused for breath, he finally turned his full, predatory attention to me. "So what do you do, Orval?" The question landed softly, but it was calculated and deliberate. Cora's spine noticeably straightened. "I work in automotive repair. Been doing it 40 years. Nicholas's posture shifted. His practiced smile gained an unpleasant, sharp edge. "Oh, a mechanic. That's honest work." The prolonged pause before the word honest carried more weight and meaning than the rest of the sentence combined. Cora jumped in too quickly, trying to defuse the moment. "Dad's really good at what he does." "I'm sure he is, honey." Nicholas draped his arm across the back of her chair. "Everyone has their place in the economy. Someone's got to keep our cars running, right?" He offered a short, superior laugh. Cora laughed with him, not quite meeting my eyes. I stayed quiet, watching them together. Her hand instinctively found his on the table and squeezed it. The waiter returned. Nicholas ordered first, something elaborate from the upper section of the menu. Cora chose the salmon. When it was my turn, I scanned the prices and selected the pasta, the second cheapest item available. "Don't be shy, Orval." Nicholas gestured broadly, his tone magnanimous. "Get whatever you want. Don't worry about the price. His performative generosity felt like a test, a dare. I smiled genuinely. Pasta sounds perfect. Throughout the meal, Nicholas dominated the discussion. He spoke about his financial consulting firm, the high-profile clients they'd landed, and the markets they were watching. His vocabulary clearly shifted when addressing me versus Cora. Simpler words, slower, slightly patronizing explanations. People who work with their hands versus people who work with their minds. It's just different skill sets, both important, just different. Cora nodded along, her embarrassment radiating across the table like heat. She couldn't bring herself to look at me directly anymore. Nicholas pulled out his phone twice during the dinner, scrolling through messages and showing Cora photos of the venue. He conspicuously angled the screen away from me, a subtle but clear exclusion. When Cora asked a question about the ceremony space, he answered in detail, describing features I couldn't see. "We'll keep the budget reasonable," he said, still scrolling. "Don't want anyone feeling stretched." His eyes flicked to me as he said the word stretched, the meaning crystallizing in the tense air between us. Cora touched his arm. "We're being smart about it, Dad. You don't need to worry." "I'm not worried." Nicholas set his phone down. "Speaking of which, we should probably handle most of the planning ourselves. Keep things simple. Your dad probably doesn't have experience with these higher-end venues and vendors." "No offense, Orville. Just being practical." None taken. But Cora took offense for him, her cheeks flushing bright red. "Nick's right, Dad. We've got it under control. You don't need to worry about anything. Just show up and enjoy." "Okay." I cut into my pasta, chewed slowly, and swallowed, watching my daughter choose her side, her loyalties, in real time. The quiet, devastating decision I'd been weighing all evening solidified. I needed to see how far this disrespect would go, how deep the contempt ran, and how utterly blind Cora had become to her fiancé's true nature. "I'll be there," I said, looking directly at her. "Wherever you need me, always have been." The check arrived. Nicholas grabbed it before the waiter had even finished setting it down. "I've got this one. You've probably got enough on your plate." The emphasis on enough hung there, heavy and deliberate. Cora smiled at him, a look of genuine gratitude and affection, and didn't acknowledge my presence at all. We walked out to the parking lot together. The evening had cooled. Downtown Denver was settling into its nighttime rhythm. Nicholas clicked his key fob and his BMW chirped twice. Then he saw my truck. His eyebrows rose sharply. "That's your ride? Well, at least it runs, right?" He laughed, a short, patronizing bark as if he'd delivered a brilliant joke. Cora laughed too, a small, uncertain sound. I unlocked my door. "Runs great. Built to last." I climbed in, started the engine. They stood together beside his BMW, his arm now possessively around her waist, watching me back out. In my rearview mirror, I saw him lean down, whispering something in her ear. She nodded. I sat in the parking space for a moment, hands resting on the steering wheel, the engine idling steadily. Nicholas's BMW pulled away. Cora, in the passenger seat, never looked back. My phone buzzed against the console. Her name lit up the screen. I stared at it, already knowing with painful certainty that this call would not be pleasant. The phone buzzed again, insistent. I let it ring twice more before reaching for it. I already knew exactly what this was. I pulled out of the parking lot instead of answering. I drove through downtown Denver's familiar grid. Streets I'd navigated for decades. Past buildings I'd watched go up and come down. The city had changed around me, but I had stayed constant, steady. I passed one of my shops on Colfax, the bay windows still lit. Carlos was probably finishing up a late job. Then another on Federal, closed for the night. Security lights casting deep shadows across the lot. I noted them without conscious attachment, the way you notice old photographs on a wall you pass every day. Arvada welcomed me with its quiet streets and modest, well-kept houses. Mine sat halfway down the block. Small, practical. The 15-year mortgage paid off 8 years ago. I pulled into the driveway, cutting the engine. This was the house Elizabeth and I had bought together, where we had raised Cora, where we had made a life. Elizabeth had decorated the living room with meticulous care, choosing every piece of furniture deliberately. 12 years since cancer had taken her, and the room still looked exactly as she'd left it. I sat on the couch she'd picked out, afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows she'd insisted face east. The phone buzzed again, different pattern this time. Voicemail. I waited another 5 minutes, letting the silence settle around me, before finally calling Cora back. She answered on the first ring. "Dad." Her voice carried tension like a wire pulled too tight. No greeting, no warmth. Hey, sweetheart. Sorry, I just got home. What's going on? We need to talk about tonight. No preamble. No acknowledgement of the painful moments at dinner. Straight into the attack. Okay, I'm listening. You can't act like that around Nicholas's business associates. I shifted the phone to my other ear. Act like what? I barely said 10 words. Exactly. You were so quiet. It was awkward, Dad, Nicholas noticed. His friends will notice. These people are important for our future. The hour didn't include me. I understood that clearly. I was being polite, letting you two talk about your wedding. It's not just about being polite. Frustration bled through her words now. Nicholas comes from a good family. His parents have connections. This wedding matters. I need you to understand that. I understand. Do you? Because tonight you seemed... She paused, searching for the right word. Uncomfortable. Out of place. And that makes me uncomfortable. The accusation stung with a sharp heat, worse than anything Nicholas had said. I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at my workshop in the backyard. Tools organized neatly on pegboards. Projects in various stages of completion. My real office, the one that truly mattered. What do you want from me, Cora? I need you to blend in. Don't talk about work. Don't mention money, or the lack of it. Just smile and nod and let Nicholas and his family handle things. Silence stretched between us. Outside, the neighbor's dog barked twice. Do you know what it's like? Her voice cracked, constantly making excuses for having a father who's just a mechanic. Just a mechanic? The words landed like broken glass on tile, sharp and scattered. I said nothing. I let her sit there, let her hear what she'd said. Dad, I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. She exhaled hard. Nicholas mentioned you seemed uncomfortable tonight. He thought maybe you'd prefer a smaller role in the wedding, less pressure on you. A smaller role in my only daughter's wedding. Don't be dramatic. We're just trying to make this work for everyone. You don't understand what this life is like. Nicholas's friends, his colleagues, they judge everything. Where you went to school, what your parents do, what car you drive. I'm finally in that world, and I can't have you messing it up. Messing it up. Is that what I did? Mess up her life by merely existing? I didn't ask the question aloud. Instead, I moved to the kitchen table, pulled out the notebook I kept for project notes, and started writing while she talked, carefully documenting every single word. That's not what I meant, she continued, backtracking but not apologizing. Nicholas has standards. His family has expectations. Can't you just be less visible for me? I finished writing, set the pen down carefully, and made my voice steady as a surgeon's hand. Here's what I'll do. I won't tell Nicholas about my business, won't mention numbers or success. I'll let him think exactly what he thinks now. Relief flooded through the phone. Really, you'll do that? On one condition. She hesitated. What condition? You give me time. Let me see how Nicholas treats a father-in-law he thinks is beneath him. Watch how he acts when he believes I'm nobody. Really watch, Cora. Then ask yourself who you're marrying. Silence long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. Then, fine, but you'll see. Nicholas is great once you get to know him. Tonight was just nerves. Wedding stress, maybe. Thank you, Dad. This means so much. You'll fit in great, I promise. She didn't understand what she'd agreed to. She didn't realize she'd just consented to her own father's meticulous test. That was fine. Better, even. I should go, she said. Nicholas is calling on the other line. Sure. Good night, sweetheart. Night, Dad. The line went dead. I sat at the kitchen table, the notebook open in front of me. I added one more line beneath the dinner conversation notes. Wedding planning meeting. Wait for invitation. I poured myself a single glass of whiskey, a rare indulgence. I stood at the window again. The workshop glowed faintly in the darkness, familiar and solid. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Marcus Chen's contact, my attorney. I hovered over his name without pressing call. Not yet, just noting the option, keeping it ready. On the mantel, a photograph stared back at me. Cora, at 10 years old, both of us covered head to toe in motor oil, laughing at something long forgotten. She'd helped me rebuild an engine that summer, insisting on learning every part, every function. Her hands had been small then, careful, eager. That girl knew what I did mattered, knew who her father was. This woman on the phone tonight didn't know me at all anymore. I made my decision standing there in Elizabeth's living room, the whiskey warming my throat. I'd attend this wedding, play the role of the poor mechanic father perfectly. Let Nicholas reveal himself fully. Let Cora see exactly what she was choosing. and give her every chance to wake up before it was too late. And if she didn't wake up, well, I'd built 12 businesses from nothing. I could build a lesson too. My phone buzzed on the table. Text message, unknown number. Orville, this is Linda Whitmore, Nicholas's mother. We'd like you to join us for wedding planning next month. April 15th, our home. 6 p.m. Sharp, sharp. Even the mother started with subtle jabs. The word choice was deliberate, instructional. Be on time. Don't embarrass us. I read it twice. Let the implications settle. Then typed back, I'll be there. Sent it. Set the phone down. Picked up my pen and added to the notebook. Whitmore family meeting, April 15th. Observe dynamics. Document everything. The game had started, whether I wanted it or not. I might as well play it well. The Whitmore house rules 3 weeks passed like slow water. April 15th arrived with clear skies and my GPS guiding me through Cherry Hills Village, where even the mailboxes looked expensive. Streets curved through neighborhoods where homes started at $2 million and climbed from there. Private security signs stood like sentries on manicured lawns. Designer landscaping framed every driveway. The Whitmore residence spread across its lot like a declaration. A 2-story colonial, white columns, a circular driveway wide enough for 3 luxury cars. I parked my F-150 behind Nicholas's BMW and a silver Mercedes SUV that probably belonged to his parents. I cut the engine and sat for a moment, studying the house that raised the man my daughter wanted to marry. I walked to the front door and rang the bell. Chimes echoed inside, some classical melody I didn't recognize. Linda Whitmore opened the door, looked past me to my truck, her eyebrows rising a fraction. You found us. Come in. No greeting, no handshake, just an acknowledgement of arrival and dismissal in the same breath. The interior screamed wealth louder than the exterior. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings that soared 12 feet high. Marble floors reflected light from windows dressed in heavy silk curtains. Art covered the walls, the kind you usually see behind velvet ropes in museums. Everything was positioned perfectly. Nothing was out of place, and nothing looked truly comfortable. The living room opened to my right. Everyone was already seated. Nicholas and Robert Whitmore were in matching leather armchairs. Cora and Linda sat on a cream-coloured sofa that looked far too expensive to actually sit on. Wedding planning materials, venue photos, catering menus, flower arrangements, and glossy folders were spread across the coffee table. One seat remained, a stiff dining chair someone had brought from another room, placed slightly apart from the main grouping. A blatant afterthought. I took it without comment. Now that we're all here, Linda began, her tone suggesting I'd kept them waiting despite arriving exactly at 6 p.m. We've narrowed the venue options, the manor house in Aurora. It's where proper families celebrate. Robert nodded, his silver hair perfectly styled, his suit probably worth more than my truck. Waited 3 months to get that date. They don't take just anyone. The conversation flowed around me. Flowers, music, ceremony timing. I listened, noted details, and stayed quiet, playing my role exactly as promised. Then Linda shifted topics. Budget. Nicholas mentioned $50,000 total. Very reasonable for a wedding of this caliber. I saw my opening. I'd like to contribute, help with costs. The room went silent. Nicholas exchanged quick glances with his parents, something passing between them quick as electricity. Nicholas smiled, condescending and practiced. That's thoughtful, Orville, but we've got this covered. Wouldn't want you to stretch yourself. Linda leaned forward, her voice dripping with false sweetness. How sweet that working people want to help too. But this is rather expensive, Orville. Perhaps you could handle something smaller. The guest book, maybe? Robert set his drink down, the ice clinking against the crystal. So, this auto shop of yours, how many employees? Just you and maybe one other guy. It's bigger than that. Been building it for decades. Robert laughed. Actual dismissive laughter, like I'd told a joke. Building? That's optimistic. Most small shops barely break even. Overhead, insurance, equipment costs. You're probably treading water. Nicholas joined in, tag teaming. Cora mentioned you do oil changes, brake work, basic stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Someone has to do it. Cora sat beside him, intently studying her phone screen, pretending the conversation wasn't happening. Her silence cut deeper than their words. I watched my daughter disappear into herself. Silence cut deeper than their words. I watched my daughter disappear into herself, choosing invisibility over defending her father. Linda stood. I'll get coffee. She left the room. I leaned forward slightly, examining the wedding materials on the table. The manor house brochure showed gardens and ballrooms, price sheets tucked inside. $50,000 total. I filed the number away. Robert stood too. Let me show you the study. I followed him down a hallway lined with family photographs. His study featured a wall of business awards, plaques, and framed photos with local politicians and business leaders. A subtle flex, showing me what success looked like in his world. 23 years building my consulting firm, he said, gesturing broadly. Started with nothing. Well, almost nothing. Had some family connections. Made something of myself. Impressive. You understand the pressure. Providing for family, maintaining standards. Nicholas learned from watching me. He knows what it takes. We returned to the living room. Linda served coffee in fine china cups, delicate things with gold trim. Everyone got matching sets except me. She handed me a plain mug, the kind contractors use on job sites. She didn't apologize or explain. She just set it on the side table near my afterthought chair and moved on. The evening wound toward its conclusion. Nicholas pulled out his laptop and opened a file. We're doing something interesting with the seating arrangement. He turned the screen toward his parents and Cora, angling it away from me. I saw the edge of a floor plan. Premium guests, business contacts, family, friends will have the main floor. Best view of the ceremony, closest to the reception area. He pointed to another section I couldn't quite see. And we'll have a separate area for everyone else, more casual. Linda nodded approvingly. It's about maintaining standards. You understand? Nicholas looked directly at me for the first time all evening. You'll be comfortable there. Less formal. Less pressure to, keep up appearances. I understood perfectly. They were segregating me, publicly marking me as lesser, creating physical distance to match the social distance they'd already established. I stood. I should go. Thank you for having me. Polite handshakes all around. Cora walked me to the door but wouldn't meet my eyes. It'll be a beautiful wedding, I said. Thanks for understanding, Dad. About the seating, it's just logistics. Sure. I walked to my truck, climbed in, started the engine, and sat there with it running. The Whitmore house glowed brightly behind me like a stage set. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to Marcus Chen's contact, my attorney. 15 years of business together. Every contract and property deal running through his office. I hovered my thumb over his name. The porch light flicked off behind me. The Whitmores were done with me for the night. I tapped the screen. One ring. Marcus, it's Orville. I need to see you tomorrow. It's important. The conditional gift. The next afternoon, I walked into Marcus Chen's law office in downtown Denver. 16th floor, a mid-size firm, the kind that handles serious business without needing marble floors to prove it. The receptionist recognized me, smiled, and waved me straight through. Marcus's office overlooked downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city I'd worked in for 40 years. He stood when I entered, concern crossing his face. In 15 years, I'd never requested an urgent meeting for anything personal. Orville, sit. What's happening? I took the chair across from his desk and laid it out methodically. My daughter's engagement, the fiancé, his family, and the escalating disrespect building towards something I couldn't ignore anymore. Marcus listened, taking notes on a legal pad, his expression shifting from concern to understanding. You want to protect Cora, he said when I finished. From herself. From a mistake she can't see yet. He set his pen down. What are you thinking? Transfer ownership of all 12 Hicks Auto Service locations to Cora as a wedding gift. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's substantial. With a condition. If the marriage dissolves within 3 years, everything reverts to me. He leaned back, fingers steepled, processing. That's a conditional gift deed with a reverter clause. Legal in Colorado, but complicated. We're talking about what? $8.5 million in total business value, approximately. Yes. Heavy tax considerations. Timing becomes critical. If Nicholas discovers this before the wedding, he'll treat Cora very differently. Are you sure you want that reveal to happen after? I'm sure. Marcus drew more connections, thinking aloud. We prepare the documents now, but date them to take effect the day after the wedding. That protects Cora's ownership from any claims Nicholas might make during the engagement. It also establishes clear proof this is your property gifted voluntarily, not a marital asset. He looked at the details again. How aggressive is the 3-year clause? Very. Most conditional gifts use 5 or 10 years. You're banking on Nicholas showing his true nature quickly. I met his eyes steadily. He already has. I'm just making sure there's a record when everyone else sees it too. Marcus studied me for a long moment. Orville, this is a sophisticated legal trap. If Nicholas realizes what you've done, he could claim you manipulated Cora. Are you prepared for her to hate you if this backfires? I'm prepared for her to understand eventually. Right now, she can't see what she's walking into. But money has a way of revealing character. He nodded slowly. 2 weeks for a complete draft. Then we'll need notarization, witness signatures, the full process. Do it. We shook hands. I left his office feeling purposeful for the first time since that miserable restaurant dinner. Later that week, I was at my flagship location in Littleton, southwest Denver. 12 bays running steady with afternoon work. 23 employees moving through their routines. Diagnostic equipment humming. The organized chaos of a well-run operation. James Sullivan arrived to pick up his company vehicle. I'd held the service contract for Summit Properties Group's fleet for 5 years now, a deal built on reliability and fair pricing. He found me in the office reviewing invoices. Orville, vehicle ready? Just finishing the paperwork. Walk with me. We moved through the facility, past bays where technicians worked under hydraulic lifts, past the parts department where inventory lined metal shelves floor to ceiling. James took it all in. The scale of it. Your operation here is impressive. 12 locations now. I remember when you had 3. Growth takes time. Nicholas knows what you've built, right? Cora's fiancé. I handed him his keys. Nicholas knows I work in auto repair. That's enough for him. James pocketed the keys, then hesitated. Funny you mentioned Nicholas. Got a wedding invitation from him. Says he's marrying into your family. My daughter, June 21st, at the Manor House. Interesting. James shifted his weight. Nicholas invited half the business community, trying to impress someone. Called me twice about investment opportunities. Networking hard. I filed that information away, thanked James for his business, and watched him drive off. Then I made a call. Marcus, can you run a discreet financial background check on Nicholas Whitmore? Legal consideration for potential family business matters. I'll have something by Monday. Monday came. Marcus called with results. Nicholas had taken a $45,000 personal loan 2 months ago. The Manor House appeared on the lending documents as collateral justification. He was drowning in debt to throw a wedding that served as social capital, using Cora as his entry ticket to the business circles he desperately wanted to penetrate. The irony tasted sharp. Nicholas mocked my finances while leveraging borrowed money for appearances. Everything I'd suspected was confirmed in black and white. That evening, I drove past the Manor House. Nicholas's BMW sat in the parking lot. He was probably inside, finalizing details he couldn't afford, spending money. He didn't have to impress people who'd forget him the moment the open bar closed. 3 weeks later, I returned to Marcus's office. The documents were ready, a thick stack of legal papers, notary seal prepared. Marcus spread them across the conference table, pages fanned out like playing cards. Sign here, here, and here. He pointed to the marked tabs. The moment Cora signs her marriage certificate, these become active. She'll own everything. I picked up the pen, my hand steady. Marcus watched me. You're giving away $8.5 million on a bet that Nicholas will prove you right. I signed the first page. Not a bet, a certainty. The insults escalate. The weeks after signing the documents passed in careful preparation. 2 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang while I was reviewing inventory at my Aurora location. Nicholas's name flashed on the screen. I answered. Background noise immediately. Colleagues talking, a printer running, his office environment leaking through. Orville, we need to discuss logistics for the wedding. No greeting, no courtesy. Just commands delivered like I worked for him. I'm listening. That truck of yours, the F-150, you can't drive that to the Manor House. It'll look terrible in the parking lot. I said nothing. I let the silence stretch. Let him fill it. And please dress appropriately. Rent a suit if you need to. Something that doesn't scream budget. Each word was calculated to wound, delivered with casual cruelty. I kept my voice level. I'll arrive in what I drive. I'll wear what I own. His tone sharpened. You don't understand. My business partners will be there. Investors. People who matter. I matter, Nicholas. I'm her father. A long pause. Then he exploded. I don't want them thinking I'm married into poverty. Is that clear enough? Cora deserves better than being associated with someone who fixes cars for a living. Do you have any idea what this wedding costs me? $45,000. I'm not letting you ruin it because you're too stubborn to rent a decent car for one afternoon. In the background, Cora's voice. Nick, who are you talking to? Nicholas didn't cover the phone. Your father. He's being difficult. I waited for her to defend me, to say something. Anything. Just silence. Then footsteps walking away. I'll be there, I said. As I am. I hung up, pulled out my secondary phone, and stopped the recording app. Colorado's a one-party consent state. Every word was documented. 7 days before the wedding, Cora called in the evening. I was home, reading through the transfer documents one more time. Dad, her voice tight, rehearsed. I talked to Linda and Robert today about photography logistics, family photo arrangements. She rushed the next part. They suggested maybe you could stand off to the side during formal photos, just for the main shots. To keep the aesthetic cohesive, the aesthetic. My daughter was speaking their language now, parroting their values like she'd forgotten her own. It's not personal, she continued. It's just, how wedding photos are. Everyone needs to coordinate. Translation: you don't match the image we're building. Do you agree with them? I asked. Longest pause of my life. Then, I just want everything to go smoothly, not a denial. An evasion, somehow worse. You'll have your smooth wedding, I said. I'll stand wherever they tell me to stand. Thank you for understanding. I hung up before saying something I'd regret. After the call, I sat in Elizabeth's living room, the documents spread across the coffee table she'd picked out 20 years ago. I opened the folder, reviewing the transfer papers again. Everything ready. 12 properties valued at $8.5 million. Full ownership, transferring to Cora the day after her wedding. The 3-year reversion clause if the marriage dissolved. I picked up my phone, texted Marcus. Proceed as planned. See you at the wedding. His reply came immediately. Confirmed. Papers will be ready for post-ceremony signing. I looked at the photo on the mantel. Cora at 10. Both of us covered in motor oil, laughing at something long forgotten. The girl who'd been proud of her father, who'd understood that working with your hands meant building something real. That girl was gone. The woman marrying Nicholas couldn't see past appearances to the substance beneath. Pain now, understanding later. That's what I was banking on. 3 days before the wedding, I had my suit dry cleaned. The same J.C. Penney suit from the restaurant meeting. Simple, inexpensive, exactly what they expected. I washed and detailed my F-150 myself. Spent 3 hours in my driveway with soap and wax and careful attention to every surface. My shop manager drove past, saw me working, and pulled over. Boss, why are you detailing your own vehicle? We've got guys for that. Some things you do yourself. He nodded, confused but respectful, and drove on. I checked the wedding invitation one more time. June 21st, 4 p.m. ceremony, the Manor House. Dress code printed at the bottom in elegant script. Black tie preferred. My simple suit wouldn't meet that standard. I knew it. I was counting on it. 2 days before, I drove past the Manor House. Setup crews were installing lighting, arranging flowers, constructing the stage Nicholas had designed for maximum impression. The scale was massive. $45,000 borrowed. Every penny visible in silk and crystal and imported roses. I picked up the finalized documents from Marcus's office personally, carried them home, and stored them in my safe alongside the business formation papers from 40 years ago. Full circle, everything I'd built, about to transfer to my daughter with a single condition that would either save her or teach her. The night before the wedding, I ironed my own shirt, polished my own shoes. Ritual preparation. A soldier before battle. The humiliation wedding morning arrived clear and cold. I stood in my bathroom, adjusting my tie in the mirror. The suit fit well enough. Clean, pressed, obviously inexpensive. Perfect. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. I'm already at the venue. Front row, aisle seat. Ready when you are. I picked up my truck keys. Time to see what Nicholas had planned. The Manor House sat on 20 acres of manicured grounds south of Denver, all white columns and sprawling gardens. I arrived just after 3:00, giving myself time before the 4 ceremony. The parking lot told the story Nicholas wanted. Luxury sedans, a few Teslas, one Maserati gleaming in the afternoon sun, and my 15-year-old F-150. I pulled into the circular drive. Valets in formal attire watched my approach, confusion crossing their faces. The young one stepped forward, hesitating. "Sir, are you with the wedding party?" I handed over my keys. "Father of the bride." His expression shifted from confusion to pity. He took the keys without another word. I walked toward the entrance, past clusters of arriving guests. Designer clothes, tailored tuxedos that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage had been. Women in dresses worth thousands, men checking watches that could finance a year of college. Everyone polished, positioned, perfect. Me in my 200 JCPenney suit. The contrast was deliberate, visible, exactly as planned. Nicholas positioned himself near the entrance like a politician working a crowd, greeting guests, shaking hands, performing his role with practiced ease. He saw me approaching, His expression flickered, annoyance, then calculation, before settling into performance mode. He raised his voice so nearby guests would hear. "Orville, you made it. Wasn't sure you'd find the place." Laughter rippled through the group around him. He stepped forward, hand extended. "Everyone, this is my father-in-law. He's in automotive work." The pause before automotive work hung there, loaded with meaning. A well-dressed woman asked politely, "Which dealership?" Nicholas answered for me. "Oh, he's not in sales. He's more hands-on. Repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing." He gestured toward the entrance. "Family seating is inside. They'll show you where." Dismissal was clear. Conversation over. "Move along." Inside, the venue lived up to its reputation. Crystal chandeliers cascaded light across marble floors. Flowers filled every corner, imported roses, orchids arranged in cascading displays. Everything screamed expensive taste and unlimited budget. A coordinator with a clipboard approached. "Name, please." "Orville Hicks, father of the bride." She checked her list, her expression carefully neutral. "Yes, right this way." She led me through the main ballroom, past the prime seating near the front, past rows of elegant chairs arranged perfectly, each with a personalized calligraphy place card. We kept walking, past the middle rows, past the back rows, through a doorway into a side area. It was still visible to the ceremony space, but clearly separated. 3 tables were set up, labeled "Family," bride's side in generic printed cards, nearly adjacent to the catering entrance. Staff walked past, carrying supplies, setting up service stations. "You'll be comfortable here," the coordinator said, overly bright. "Close to refreshments." Translation: hidden from view, near the service area, out of photographs. I sat, surveyed the room through the doorway. The main floor was filling with Nicholas's guests, people radiating wealth and status. Then I spotted a familiar face. James Sullivan, 3 rows from the front in the premium section. He scanned the room, stopped when he saw me in the side area. Our eyes met across the distance. His expression changed, confusion, then dawning realization. He knew me as a successful business owner with 12 locations. He saw me seated with budget guests near the kitchen. He stood, starting to move toward me, but the wedding coordinator's voice rang out. "Please take your seats. Ceremony beginning in 5 minutes." James hesitated, sat back down, but he kept glancing toward me, the question visible on his face. "What's happening here?" I pulled out my phone, photographed my seating area, the view from my table, the generic place cards, while the main floor guests had personalized calligraphy, documentation, evidence, all of it recorded. The music started. The processional began. From my side position, I watched guests stand, turning toward the aisle. Cora appeared in the entrance, beautiful in a white dress that probably cost $8,000. She didn't look toward the side area, didn't look for me. She walked down the aisle alone. Nicholas's suggestion. More modern, they'd said. More convenient, they meant. No father-daughter walk. No acknowledgement of the man who'd raised her alone after Elizabeth died. Nicholas stood at the altar, beaming, playing his role perfectly. I watched my daughter marry a man who demanded her father be hidden, and she'd agreed. A woman sat at my table, older, kind-faced. "I'm the bride's aunt from her mother's side," she said quietly. "Apparently we're not photogenic enough for the main floor either." Apparently not. Service staff walked past repeatedly during the ceremony. The disruption Nicholas claimed to prevent by seating me here was actually created by this arrangement. But it wasn't about logistics. It never was. I spotted Marcus in the audience, 4th row center. He saw me, gave a subtle nod. The witness was in position. The officiant declared them married. Applause filled the room. Nicholas kissed Cora, both beaming. They walked back down the aisle together, accepting congratulations. As they passed the doorway to the side area, Nicholas glanced toward where I sat. Our eyes met for half a second. He smirked. Then they were gone, swept into the crowd of well-wishers. The coordinator announced, "Cocktail hour on the terrace while we prepare the reception space." I stood. Marcus appeared beside me. "Ready?" he asked quietly. "Not yet," I said. "Let's see what he does next." The cocktail hour passed in a blur of champagne and forced mingling. By the time the reception began, Nicholas had worked through 3 glasses of bourbon. I watched from my corner table as he grew louder, bolder, his inhibitions dissolving with each drink. Dinner service completed. Toasts finished. The reception was in full swing. Nicholas, at the head table, was visibly intoxicated, gesturing wildly while talking to friends. his voice carrying across the room with that particular volume drunk people achieve. Cora sat beside him, looking uncomfortable, but not intervening. I remained at my segregated table. Marcus Chen sat nearby, catching my eye with a questioning look. James Sullivan, at his premium table, periodically glanced toward my section with visible confusion. The physical separation of spaces was now glaringly obvious to anyone paying attention. Nicholas stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair, grabbed his drink, and gestured to his friends. "Come on, let me introduce you to my father-in-law." The group weaved through the tables toward my section. The performance was clearly planned. Guests noticed, conversations paused, attention shifting. Nicholas arrived with his entourage, speaking loud enough for half the room to hear. "Gentlemen, allow me to present Orville Hicks, finest mechanic in the Denver area." His friends laughed on cue. Well-rehearsed cruelty. "He's more comfortable with grease than champagne, aren't you, Orville? Different worlds, you know." He gestured at his tuxedo, then at my simple suit. "But hey, he showed up. That's what counts." One friend played along. "You know, Nick, I've been thinking. A man who works with his hands probably feels out of place at an event like this. All this refinement, all these successful people." Nicholas nodded sagely. "Exactly. Nothing wrong with knowing your place. I respect that about working-class folks. They understand their limits." He made a show of loosening his bow tie. "Is it hot in here, or is it just me?" Another friend chimed in. "All these people, all this perfume. Bit suffocating." Nicholas snapped his fingers like he'd had an idea. "You know what, Orville? There's a lovely courtyard outside. Might be more your speed. Fresh air, no crowd." He pointed toward the French doors leading outside. Through the glass, snow was falling, heavy and thick. The outdoor thermometer displayed clearly 4 F. Guests following the conversation realized what he was suggesting. Some laughed nervously. Others looked uncomfortable. Nicholas continued, emboldened. "Seriously, wouldn't you be more comfortable out there, away from all this elite company? No pressure to keep up appearances. Come on, don't be shy. The courtyard's beautiful this time of year. Well, maybe not in a snowstorm at 4 below zero, but you're tough, right? Blue-collar tough." He emphasized elite like a weapon. His friends grinned, waiting for me to back down, to slink away in shame. I stood slowly, deliberately, took my napkin from my lap, folded it precisely, and placed it on the table. I made eye contact with Nicholas and didn't break it. The room quieted further, sensing confrontation. I looked past Nicholas toward the head table. Cora was watching, her face pale. Our eyes met across the distance. She looked down, said nothing, did nothing. That moment crystallized everything. I turned back to Nicholas. "Interesting suggestion, Nicholas. Very revealing." My tone was perfectly calm. No anger, no defensiveness. The calmness was somehow more unsettling than rage would have been. Nicholas misread it as weakness, smirked wider. "See, he gets it. He knows when he's—" A voice cut across the room from the premium section. "Wait, hold on a minute." James Sullivan was standing at his table, staring at me, walking forward, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to disbelief. Orville Hicks." He stopped a few feet away, studying me. "You're the owner of Hicks Auto Service, aren't you?" The question dropped into the silence like a stone in distilled water. Nicholas laughed, but it sounded hollow. "What?" "No, he just works—" James cut him off. "I know him. We have contracts together. Orville Hicks. I thought that was you, but in this section, I assumed—" "Wait." He looked around at the segregated seating, the side area placement, and back at me. "You own Hicks Auto Service, the whole chain. 12 locations across Colorado." Nicholas turned to me, his face flushing darker than the alcohol alone would explain. "What are you talking about? He's just a mechanic. He fixes cars." "Cora told me." James shook his head slowly. "He doesn't fix cars. He owns the company. I've been signing checks to Hicks Auto Service for 5 years." Other guests started pulling out phones. The whispers spread. Nicholas looked at me. I said nothing, just waited. The silence stretched like a wire pulled too tight. Nicholas's face cycled through expressions. Confusion, denial, dawning horror. Around us, phones lit up as guests started searching. James spoke louder, addressing the room as much as Nicholas. "Hicks Auto Service, 12 locations. Aurora, Littleton, Westminster, Thornton, Lakewood, Inglewood." He listed locations from memory. Each name landed like a hammer blow. "We have a fleet maintenance contract, 70 vehicles. Annual contract value over $200,000. A businessman at a nearby table looked up from his phone. "He's right. I'm looking at the company website. Orville Hicks, founder and CEO. Another guest, reading from LinkedIn. Founded 1985, grew from single bay operation to regional chain. Estimated business value 8 to 10 million. A woman at James's table. There's an industry article here, local success story. How Orville Hicks built a multi-million-dollar business, one repair at a time. The information spread through the room like wildfire, phone to phone, whisper to whisper. Nicholas's face drained of colour, visibly paling. He looked at Cora. You said he was just a mechanic. You said... Cora's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. She knew. Everyone could see. She knew. Linda Whitmore's voice cut from the head table, shrill. Cora, is this true? Robert stood, walked toward the group, tablet in hand. I'm looking at the Colorado Secretary of State Business Registry. Orville Hicks, registered agent for Hicks Auto Service LLC, primary owner. Nicholas stumbled backward. But the truck, the clothes, His friends, who'd laughed earlier, were now backing away, distancing themselves. Nicholas turned to me. You lied. You pretended to be. I spoke for the first time since standing. My voice carried across the silent room. I didn't lie. I answered every question honestly. You asked what I do. I work in automotive repair. I do every day. I paused, letting that sink in. My daughter asked me not to discuss the business. I respected her wishes. She wanted to see how you'd treat a father-in-law you thought had nothing. I looked at Cora. You showed us exactly who you are, Nicholas. Not just me, everyone here. Cora's face crumbled, caught between two devastating narratives. Nicholas tried to recover. This is a misunderstanding. I never meant it. It was just jokes. Wedding humor. The outside thing was obviously kidding. Who would actually... James cut in. You told him to sit in a snowstorm at 4 below zero. That wasn't humor. Other guests murmured agreement. The mood turned completely. The woman from my relegated table stood. He put all the bride's family back here by the kitchen like we weren't good enough. Another voice. The valet parking. The separate seating. The dress code comments. Witnesses were coming forward now, each remembering small cruelties they'd dismissed. Nicholas was spinning, trying to find an ally. Someone back me up here! This is being blown out of proportion. His friends were silent, studying their shoes. His parents were frozen, their social calculation visible. Defend their son or preserve their reputation. A guest reading from her phone. Forbes Small Business Feature 2023. Orville Hicks represents the American success story. Built from nothing through determination and integrity. James, to the room. 12 locations, over 100 employees, multi-million-dollar operation, and you sat him by the kitchen like hired help. Nicholas. Desperate now. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? Cora never told me. This isn't my fault. I looked at him steadily. She gave you every chance to treat me with basic respect. You didn't need to know my bank account for that. Linda Whitmore turned on Cora, accusatory. You let us humiliate ourselves. You watched us insult a millionaire at our own son's wedding. Cora was sobbing now. I didn't think it would. I looked at Cora one last time. She was crying, hands over her face, shoulders shaking. Nicholas was trying to approach her. She pulled away. I spoke, not to Nicholas, but to the room. I came to my daughter's wedding. I sat where I was told. I stayed quiet while being mocked. Not because I'm weak, but because I wanted everyone to see the truth. I turned to leave. I walked through the center of the ballroom this time, not the side exit. Guests parted to let me through. Several nodded respectfully as I passed. James touched my arm. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. You understand now. That's what matters. Marcus appeared at my side near the exit. The papers. Tomorrow. Let tonight settle first. I spoke my final words before crossing the threshold. You wanted to know if I was worthy of your elite company, Nicholas. Turns out you needed to prove you were worthy of mine. You failed. The reversion clause. The morning after the wedding, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. Nicholas called 4 more times before I finally answered on the 5th. I was at my kitchen table, coffee cooling in my favorite mug, watching the phone buzz against the wood surface. I picked it up. Orville, please. We need to talk. Last night was... I made a terrible mistake. Nicholas's voice came through, desperate, trembling between anger and fear. The background was quiet. He was alone somewhere, probably locked in a bathroom or office, hiding from Cora. The alcohol, the stress of the wedding. I wasn't thinking clearly. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're drinking. You understand that, right? I said nothing. I let him fill every pause with increasingly desperate explanations. The business contacts, the reputation damage. Do you know what this does to me professionally? People I've worked with for years saw that. They're calling, asking questions, making assumptions. Still, I waited. I'm trying to make this right here, to explain, to apologize. Are you finished? I'm trying to apologize here. No, you're trying to manage damage. There's a difference. Silence on his end. Then, what happened between you and Cora is between you and Cora, not my business anymore. But I need you to... People think I cut him off. They think exactly what you showed them. That's not my problem to fix. Before hanging up, I added one more thing. By the way, Cora received her wedding gift yesterday. Documents transferring ownership of all 12 Hicks Auto Service locations to her name. Completely legal. My attorney handled everything. Silence on the line. I could hear him breathing, processing. What, 12 locations? You gave her $8.5 million worth of business? Yes. It's hers now. I ended the call before he could respond. I immediately phoned Marcus. He knows about the transfer. Took him less than 12 hours. That's faster than I expected. How long until he shows his true colors? Marcus's voice went grim. Based on what you told me about his loan? Days, not weeks. Money makes people impatient. I settled in to wait. The test had truly begun. Over the next week, I received brief texts from Cora. Nicholas is acting strange. He keeps asking about the business paperwork. Wants to meet with our accountant. That possessive pronoun was notable. Then, he's being really attentive. Too attentive. Something feels wrong. I didn't respond. I let her observe and process on her own. The transformation was exactly as predicted. Nicholas had switched from contempt to excessive interest overnight. No genuine affection, just transparent greed wrapped in false concern. A week after the wedding, Cora called me. Dad, I need you to explain the transfer papers again. Her voice was soft. I pulled out the original contract, slid it across the table, and pointed to the language highlighted in bold. If your marriage lasts 3 years, the business is permanently yours. But if you divorce before then, everything reverts to me. Nicholas can't touch it either way. She stared at the words. You built a trap for him to prove what he really wants. I built a mirror so you could see clearly. Her finger traced the 3-year clause. So if I divorce him now, you get everything back. Yes. And if I stay with him knowing what he is, I get to keep millions but live a lie. I let her sit with that impossible choice. Finally, she looked up. What would you do? I stood, rinsed my coffee cup. I can't answer that. This is your decision. Your life, your marriage. She folded the contract slowly. I need time to think. 2 weeks. I gave her 2 weeks to see if she'd learned anything. Those 2 weeks revealed everything I needed to know about Nicholas. Cora called me 3 times, each conversation shorter than the last, each confirming what I had already understood. The third call ended with 5 words. Dad, I need Marcus's number. I returned to normal routines, managing shops, reviewing contracts, living my life. The calls came in intervals. First week, he's making spreadsheets about the business, profit projections, expansion plans. Keeps saying, we need to modernize. We should leverage the assets. We could sell half and invest. Always we, never acknowledging it was solely hers. Second week, the calls grew darker. He got angry when I said I wanted to wait before making any decisions. Asked why I'm being difficult. Said I'm being ungrateful after everything he's done. Third call, her voice different. Colder, clearer. I told him no, definitively. No shared ownership, no signing documents, no business decisions without me learning the operation first. She described his reaction. He stopped pretending. Just stopped. Started yelling about wasted opportunities, stupid decisions, how I don't understand what I have. Said marrying me was supposed to be his breakthrough, his entry into real wealth. The words that finally broke through. Called me a disappointment, just like my mechanic father. That phrase, the same contempt, now turned on her. I'm done, Dad. I need a divorce attorney. Can I use Marcus? I texted her his number immediately. Marcus took her case, moving quickly. We'll file this week. Colorado allows no-fault divorce, but given the circumstances, we can expedite. Nicholas attempted to fight, filed counterclaims, demanded portions of marital assets. His lawyer argued the business gift should be considered marital property. Marcus demolished every argument. Gift made pre-marriage. Documentation solid. Conditional clause explicitly prevented spousal claims. Nicholas tried everything. Mediation demands, settlement negotiations, threatening litigation. Each attempt failed against the ironclad contract Marcus had drafted. By mid-August, the divorce was finalized. The marriage lasted barely 2 months. The contract's reversion clause activated automatically. All 12 shops returned to my ownership. I heard through James Sullivan what happened to Nicholas professionally. The wedding story had spread through Denver's business community. People are calling him the guy who insulted a millionaire at his own wedding, James told me over coffee. His firm quietly suggested he seek opportunities elsewhere. His parents were embarrassed, distancing themselves publicly. The $45,000 wedding loan came due. No Cora, no business, no money. Still the debt. Everything Nicholas wanted to achieve through the marriage was lost. Everything he'd mocked me for having was revealed as his own reality. Actually struggling, actually fake, actually desperate. Late August afternoon. I was working at my original shop in Littleton, the one I'd opened 40 years ago. 12 service bays, hydraulic lifts, diagnostic equipment, humming with afternoon work. Cora arrived. She looked different, stronger, clearer-eyed. We walked through the facility together. I explained operations. She actually listened now, asked real questions. We sat in the small office where I'd started, drank coffee from the same pot I'd used for decades. I slid new documents across the desk. Full ownership transfer. No conditions this time. It's yours for real now. No tests, no clauses. You've earned it, she started to cry. I'm so sorry for everything. For choosing him. For being ashamed. I stopped her. You learned. That's what matters. Most people never figure out the difference between what glitters and what's actually gold. She wiped her eyes. I thought success meant impressing people like Nicholas. People with the right clothes, the right connections. I was so stupid. You were young. Now you're learning. There's a difference. Will you teach me about the business? I mean, really teach me. Not just the paperwork, but the actual work. I stood, grabbed 2 sets of coveralls from the hook, and tossed one to her. First lesson starts now. We've got a transmission to rebuild in Bay 3. She caught the coveralls, holding them like something precious. We sat in that office for another hour first, discussing expansion plans, market opportunities, operational improvements. She had ideas, good ones, smart observations about customer service, about building loyalty, about reputation. At some point, she asked about the F-150 parked outside. Still driving it every day. Runs perfectly. I take care of what's mine, she smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. I didn't build this business to prove anything to anyone, I said. I built it because I'm good at what I do, and I treat people right. That's the only success that matters. We walked out onto the shop floor together, father and daughter, both knowing what matters. The gold, not the gilding. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.